Hi, this is Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my classroom. I'm broadcasting live today from Chesapeake, Virginia, and sending my message out to LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So all of you watchers out there, I hope you're tuned in and give me some comments and some likes and some thumbs up. My wife Gloria's in the studio today.
Welcome, everyone.
And she'll be monitoring the broadcast and also checking out the chat room once we get started. Today is really going to be exciting. I've got an interesting program today. I'm going to show some techniques on how to paint some cards. First of all, a lot of people are sending cards to everybody on special occasions. Now, you either buy a card but I think it's more personal if you make a card. And there are a lot of card makers out there. I hope you're watching today also. There's a lot of card makers out there that make their own cards. And as an artist, it's one of the fun-making things to do. A lot of times you sit around wondering, what do I paint today? What can I paint? Well, why don't you try to make out possibly a greeting card? And there are lots of options out there to try. So today I'm going to show you my examples of some things that I do. My approach here today is I'm going to take you over to my painting table and show you the tools that I've used for today's classroom. And then I have a video that will show a step-by-step procedure of actually how I made the card up. And then I'm going to bring you back at the end and show you several examples of that painting made into some cards. So let's go to my painting table and let me show you some of the detailed things that I used to make the card. I'll turn on the chat room. Move over to my paint table here and turn on the light. Okay, here I have on my painting table a lot of items here. The first thing I'll introduce here, I'm using the Gina K design stamp set, which is Spring Mountain, and this is one of the stamp sets that my wife has, and I asked her if I could borrow it, and she said, of course. So I use this, and the reason that every time I look at a stamp set or something, I look at the subject and I say, "Ooh, I like to paint that." So that's the first step you always do. Find an interesting subject that you like to paint. Well, this has got mountains and flowers and so forth. And so it's a nice landscape thing. It's a large stamp, but would make an interesting painting. And also, I'm going to make a greeting card out of it, so it'll make an interesting gift for someone. So that's the stamp set I used. What I did was I used the, let me show what I used here. This is the amalgam ink. This is the Gina K product, amalgam ink, and it's black. And the amalgam is used with the watercolor paper or any paper because it's waterproof. It won't run when you put the water on it. And what I have here is, this is a 140-pound watercolor. Now this is artist quality watercolor paper that I'm using here. It's a 140-pound cold press Gemini watercolor paper. And what we did, we took the Misty, one of my wife's stamping tools, and we printed out the two versions. And then I just took this piece of watercolor paper and printed out two copies of it. So that's what this is the material I'm going to use to paint on. Also, what I used before I go into any more detail, I used the this is Stratford watercolor paper.
Strathmore.
Correction, Strathmore. Thank you. Strathmore watercolor paper. This is 90 pound. The one I showed you before is Gemini, which is 140 pound. So this is 90 pound watercolor paper. The quality and type of paper you use is very important because if you use regular paper, it won't take a lot of water, so you have to be very careful about that. But you can paint on almost any kind of paper you have, but it's just a matter of amount of paint that you use and amount of water that you mix with it. So I'm using a watercolor paper because I'm used to that, and it'll come out, which I know the results will come out better. Also, what I'm going to use here, because of the detail of the details of the stamp here and the flowers, I'm going to use the incredible white mask product here, which comes in a kit form, and it has the 2-ounce bottle of white mask. It also has the dipstick, which you use that as the to apply the white mask with, and then it has the liquid precipitate remover, which is what I call a rubber cement pickup. And it comes in a kit form. Okay. And this dipstick is very important. Here's one here I've taken off. This is the one I used in the demonstration. This dipstick has a point on it, and it has a broad part. There's a broad part which I use to cover larger areas, and then as I turn it, I can use the edge of it, the point. It gives me a fine point, and I can do fine detail. And you'll see that in the presentation today when I do the demonstration on the card. Okay, so this is a very important tool, and I use just several products. I'll show you how I apply this, and I have a step-by-step procedure how I apply the white mask also. My palette is Holbein Watercolors, and I'm using basically a primary set, ultramarine blue, lemon yellow, and a glycerin crimson. That's the three primary yellow, blue, yellow, and red, three primary colors. But I'm also going to add a little bit of green number 1 and a special color opera, which is a nice bright red, and yellow orange. Those are because of the flowers and the butterflies that's on the painting. Now these are Holbein watercolors on my website, and this is my website, everettswatercolors.com. And the two brushes I use are going to be natural hair. This is silver brush, black velvet, the half inch flat, and I have a silver brush, black velvet, number 8 round. Those are the two brushes I'm going to use in the paintings today. Okay. Let me set this aside. I'm trying to clear the deck here a little bit so I can talk some more. So I've gone over the paper, I've gone over the paints, and I've gone over the masking fluid. Also, I'll use this blue tape. You'll see me use a blue tape also in the demonstration. This is just normal, regular painter's tape you can buy at the hardware store. And I use that to tack down the paper so it won't move around. You'll see me use that quite a bit. Just regular old painter's tape. Here, let me show you some of my planning here. For inspiration, I went and got some pictures off the internet. Now, this is a picture of mountains with some snow on it. And you see lots of whites there, but you also see some dark areas or shadows and so forth. Okay, so I went and got some inspiration. Also, I got another picture of some mountains with the flowers in the foreground, more of a spring view. And this is because the stamp set was called the Spring Mountain. So this is more of a spring mountain viewpoint here. But you see a lot of darks there in the background. But look at the colors. The colors of the mountains in the background are blue because they're far off in the distance. And as you come forward, the mountains change color. They get a little bit warmer. And of course, the yellows and greens in the foreground. And this is kind of the colors I'm going to use today in the painting. I even use the lighter blue sky up at top. Now, before I get started, though, I took the stamp set and put it on a regular piece of copy paper, and did some studying. First thing I'm going to do, I do a value plan, and here on the value plan, I'm going to have the background. I'm going to have a dark background with a dark mountain. I'm going to have maybe leave some white paper to show, if possible, snow caps on the top of the mountains. And then here in the foreground, in the middle ground foreground, I'm going to come with a light value here. And then as I come forward, it'll be a little bit darker. So the darker value will be here, be like a middle value behind the flowers, so they'll show up. So I've planned out my values of dark, light, and middle on the painting. I'm even going to leave a little area up here for a cloud possibly in the sky. And this over here, this is a delightful daisies, which I'm going to do in the future also. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this flower arrangement here for card making, and I'll present that a little bit later.
Gina K.
These are all Gina K stamps, and these are all Gina K stamp sets that I'm using here. Okay, I'm going to take you back over. Let me take you back over to the main camera. Let's see. Okay, now on the main camera, well, I got you on the main camera. What I'm going to do now is I've got a video that I prepared because of all the steps I did. I had to stop and then dry and rearrange the palette a little bit and so forth, and did some technical things during the process. So in order to keep it nice and smooth, I created a videotape to show the whole process. Now I start out by showing how to use the masking fluid. I think that's very important. The masking fluid is very easy. And I'm going to show you the easy steps it is, and all you need is a bucket of water and the dipstick and the masking fluid itself. And I'll show you how I put that on the paper. And then I go through the process. Excuse me. I go through the process of painting, and you'll see I'm taking it very easy and slow. I want you to be able to follow through with me. If there's a point here when you're looking at the video later on, you can speed it up, you can move ahead, and so forth. So that, and I'll go through some more detail on that after the video. Okay, so when I come back from this video, I also have a list of all the materials. At the end of the video, you'll see a list of all the materials that I used that are being used on the stamp set, along with the stamp set. And then I'm going to bring you back after the video, and I'm going to show you the samples of several cards I made with the stamp set. Different coloring and different variety and so forth. And I'll go over that and show you the actual cards that I made from the painting. So I'm going to take you to the video right now, and I'll see you after the video. Okay, this is a demonstration of how easy it is to put the white mask onto the paper. This is the white mask. This is a 2-ounce bottle. It comes out of the white mask kit. And this is a dipstick, which applies the white mask. And I have a pail of water over here, just plain water. And I have a paper towel down here. And this is the area I'm going to mask in, these flowers here at the bottom. We take the top off. And the first thing I do is I wet the dipstick in the water, take off the excess water, just use water to just wet the end of the dipstick. Then just go into it, and I find the place I want to go, and just very easily just use the edge, the flat edge of the dipstick, which is right here. Flat edge, and then dip in and get some more. Then I can turn over and use the point or the corner of the dip and get these smaller spaces on this particular petal here. I go back and rinse out the stiff pick often. That keeps the masking fluid from drying out on the dipstick. Then I'll use the end of the edge. So this is a very handy little tool. This dipstick is just a incredible tool here to put masking fluid on. I find this to be very convenient, and just using the masking fluid with a little bit of water on to keep it moist, and then I can go in here and get these some petals here on the side. And there's a little flower down at the bottom. So just fill it in with the edge, using the edge in the corners. Now for these smaller ones, I'm going to go in. I'm just going to put in just to cover up those areas. And for these little flowers, just going to touch, just touching it, put a little bit of, just covering up those shapes. And this flower over here, I'm just going to do little dots. Now for the butterflies, I'm going to put a little color on those. So I'm just going to mask out some of the area on the wing so I can put color in it later. This masking fluid is going to protect the paper, or protect the white paper when I put the color on it. So now, even here on these small areas, for example, look at the stems. I just turn this and just use the edge of this dipstick, and I can get these fine lines just using the edge of the dipstick, just like that. So it's very easy to apply the white mask to a piece of paper. Just draw like a pencil, just following that line. This one here gives me a fine line using the edge. Wash out. Just make sure we wash it out often. Keep it nice and clean. You can go back in, pick up some more. I'm going to make these fine lines. Stem of this flower here, even the little petals. This fine line here. So I'm just drawing right over the shape or the line that I want to protect. And that's it. And I'll make sure I clean out the tip. And I can always just check any residue on the end. Make sure it's nice and clean. Nice and clean. No residue on there. Then make sure I put the put the lid back on the bottle. And what I do is I tighten it down real good. I give it an extra turn. And then what I'll do is I'll turn upside down, and that mixes it up on the table. And then every day or so, I'll pick it up and go the other way. So I'll turn upside down to mix it naturally. Just turn upside down and then put it up upright. Okay, so that is a real simple application for covering a small area using the dipstick tool and just the masking fluid. Now we let that dry it'll take about 15 or 20 minutes, let it dry, and then we come back and paint on it. Now I'll bring this up closer so you can take a look at that area that's masked. Well, the masking fluid dries clear, but you can see the sections there at the bottom. You might be able to see the sections here that there's a little bit of gloss there from the light. You may be able to see it, but so that's the other advantage, is that the masking fluid, the incredible white mask dries. It dries clear, so you can see the objects. In fact, if you had color behind it, you could see the color behind the white mask, which is a good advantage for watercolor. To know what color you're painting over, whether it's white paper or another color. And also, the white mask, incredible white mask, is also water soluble. I could dilute that down and make a thinner solution and make it spread even more. And you can experiment with that to see how much you want to do that with. But I used it right out of the bottle. That's probably the best way to use it. But it can be diluted and put on even thinner if required. Okay, this is the stamp was put on 140-pound Gemini watercolor paper, which is my watercolor paper I use in watercolor paintings. But I cut it down to size here for this little card. What I'm going to do is tape it down so it doesn't move around. So because it's such a small piece, it's 5 1/4 by 4 inches. That's the size of the paper, and so I'll just tape it down here. This keeps it from moving around, so I can be a little more when I do the brush work and so forth. Now the two brushes I'm using is these are silver brush natural hair brushes. This is a black velvet 1/2 inch flat, and I have a silver brush black velvet number 8 round. And these are natural hair brushes. And I use them in my plein air, but these are great for a small painting like this, for the format. So I'm going to start out with the flat brush, the 1/2 inch flat brush, and I'm going to use really the primaries. Ultramarine blue, which will be my blue. And I'm going to start with I'm going to leave the blue here. I'm going to go ahead and put it right into the mountain. I'll start right into the mountaintop. And I'm going to leave a little white paper showing to show possibly snow on a mountain. Just a little indication of snow. So I'm going to paint around the edges here and leave a little white paper showing just to give it a little hint of possibly snow on top of the mountain. So this is just my interpretation. This is ultramarine blue, and it's kind of a darker mix. The amount of water you put in the brush will control how dark the paint is. So this will be pretty dark because I want the dark color to show. I mean, the light color to show up against that. So I'm gonna leave some gonna leave some white paper to show possible snow up here on top of the mountain along these ridge lines. Come on. This one over here, this large peak over here, will have a lot of snow on top, and run down to the edge. I like to paint. I like to paint the darks right next to the edge of the painting. That way, the eye, the eye will follow the lighter colors. So by keeping the edges darker, that keeps the eye into the painting. So I'm using this as a painting exercise. And I'm taking my time on this because I want it to, yeah, be a nice little paint. This is going to be a little painting that could be used for a card, which I'm going to, when I finish this, we're going to put it onto a cardstock and mount it. So this is just the indication of a little bit of snow up here in the mountain.
Yeah, but you can soften it up and make it lighter.
And then I'm going to come down here to the bottom part, and I'm going to put some more. Now add a little bit of alizarin crimson here, because as the mountains come closer, they get a little bit warmer. The ones in the back, the further off mountains are blue, or have blue. The blue color recedes. It recedes and as you come forward, the colors get a little warmer. So I'll use just a little touch of purple here with the alizarin crimson on this little forward ridge here. And there'll be some snow up here and little caps here, little tops of the mountains, the little crests of these little mountains here in the foreground. And coming on down here next to the meadow here, which will be very light. Yeah. I'm going to change the little brush strokes here. Using the edge of the brush, the corner of the brush. And I'm taking my time. Not going to rush this. I'll take more of that blue and go back here and capture this little part right here. Okay, that takes care. Now let me dry this up a little bit. I'm going to turn on my hair dryer and dry this. Okay, I'm going to paint the forward part here, which will be the meadow with the flowers. So I'm going to start with the grass, and I'm going to mix up a green color here using yellow lemon. Yellow lemon, so primary of yellow and blue, but then I'm going to use my green number one. I want to put a little more green into this, so I'll use my palette green, which is green number one. And then I'll put a touch of ultramarine blue to darken it up. So I really have a light, medium, and dark green mix here. Rinse out the brush before I change colors. Pick up some more of that yellow green. All right, so I have quite a mixture there. So I'm going to start out with a brush load of the light green. We'll start up here in the light. We'll still go from light to dark, starting here in this is the middle ground. So on this forward edge, I'm gonna make this the lighter green. Then I'll pick up a little bit of the darker middle tone green, which was a mixture of ultramarine, a little bit of green number one. Then I'll go into the darker green, which will be under here, and that'll make the flowers come out a little bit darker or brighter with this darker background. And I don't mind if a little bit of, even some of the white paper shows through. It gives a little bit of sparkle into the painting. But the masking fluid is covering up all the flower shapes so that I can go back in after this dries and put in the flower colors. So this dark green now is going to be a nice backdrop to the lighter colors of the flowers. And that's my whole plan here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put the blow dryer on and hair dryer and dry that. Okay, now there's the paint. There's the painting so far. Put the dark mixture greens here at the bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the masking fluid with the rubber cement pickup. And all we do here is make sure your painting is perfectly dry. Make sure that's why I use the hair dryer. Make sure it's perfectly dry before we remove the masking fluid. I use my hand to touch, make sure all the masking fluid, that you'll feel the roughness of the masking fluid on there if it's still there. Okay. And with the masking fluid off, you can see now all I have is the white paper showing, which I'm going to paint the flower colors. So I'm going to change brushes. I'm going to use the number 8 round silver brush, black velvet. And I'm going to start with the brightest color, the yellow. This is my lemon yellow. And take it almost right out of the tube here. And I'm going to start here with this flower here, make this a yellow flower. And this I'm gonna make a yellow, another yellow flower over here. I like this yellow against the green. Gives me a nice bright color.
And did double.
So this first primary color I used was ultramarine blue. And now this is the lemon yellow. That's my second primary I'm using. And just a tad more water there.
And this would be good for
adding a little more pigment here to make it
framing for a picture.
A little darker. Okay, now there's a couple of little flowers here I want to make yellow. This little one here in the foreground. The bottom, I'll make that yellow. When I color yellow, I like to use it in other parts of the paint, not just have one isolated yellow, but move it around. Over here there's a spot here on the edge. I'll make that yellow. Little partial flower popping out this side.
Where's the boxes down here? Oh.
And I'm going to make there's some little small flowers down here. I'm going to make those yellow also. The bottom. So I got a little bit of yellow all the way around, not just in one spot. Okay, now in my third primary, I'm going to use a red. Now I'm going to use this is called Opera, which is a light red color, but it's very nice, very brilliant. So that's the third primary I'm using. This red here, the beautiful color. I'm going to use that on this flower right here with these long petals. And also the red now really is a complementary to the green, so it really makes it stand out.
These are all
and as I said before, when I use it now, there's a little cluster down here. I'm going to put the red down here, just a little touch of red there. And these little flowers down here, I'm going to put those in red using the Opera. And one more place over here, just a little cluster. Put the little red over here. So I've got red here, again, not just in one spot, but spread out along the painting. And then for the butterflies, there's 3 butterflies here. I'm going to use orange. Make them into a monarch. It's one of my favorite butterflies. So the stamp is there, but I'm going to put the orange onto the wings. So this makes a little bit of color here in the foreground, which is what this whole painting is about. It's a nice background with a mountain, and then and these nice spring flowers here in the foreground. Okay, then I'm going to finish up here with a little bit of this light green.
Yeah, I know.
Green number 1 mixed in with a yellow. Make it into a nice spring green. Nice spring green color. And I'm going to put that on these weeds or tall grass. And on the stems of the flowers. Some small leaves. Here's another tall grass. Stems. Some leaves. So this light green now will show up also against the darker green. Nice contrast of light and green color. Okay, and to bring it up close up here, you can see those colors popping out against the darker background. Okay, let me draw that. Okay, All right, just dried up. Okay, there's the partial painting there. Now, what I'm going to do now is paint the sky. So I mix up a little bit of ultramarine blue and with a lighter mix. It'll be ultramarine blue, but with a lot of water in it. Making sure I have a nice clean blue. And load the brush. And I'll come up here and get the sky color. And the sky is the lightest color on the lightest level on the painting. So I'll keep this over here on the edge. And I can leave some white paper here as for a cloud formation. So I'm going to go over here and paint around this mountain here with the blue. And I'm going to leave some white paper showing for a cloud formation. So paint around to paint a cloud. Paint the sky color around the cloud formation. Making up as I go. I don't draw any lines in the sky because it'll show. So really make your own formation of the cloud shape. A little blue over here.
You can say I'm learning all about card making.
Now I'm going to paint a border around. Paint a border around. So start out at the bottom here and mask off the bottom. And I'm going to tape down the painting so it doesn't move. And now take the half-inch flat brush with some ultramarine blue. Make the border blue. And then painting down from the tape down. And that blue border. Now I can take the tape off. Gives me a blue border. Now I'm going to go put a piece of tape on the top. Mask off the painting. Load the brush with fresh paint.
can say in the video I painted the border
Take
on
off
this last
that.
card.
Okay, there's the two
Cut the border
top
off
and the bottom done.
for the
Now I'm going to dry those. I'm going to dry those off before I add the sides. Okay, so I dried the edges, the top and bottom. Now I'm going to mask in the top one here. I mask off the painting. The tape. This is another way of masking without masking fluid, is to use a piece of tape, especially if you have a straight edge. If you have a straight edge, straight lines, this is the easiest way to do a straight line painting. Part of the painting is just to put tape on it, and take the loaded brush. And then pull it off. That one's done. And one more edge. So we'll take another piece of tape and we'll line it up on the edge of the painting. Make sure it's sealed. And load the brush with ultramarine blue and paint away from the tape. Load the brush, keep the value the same.
But you need to get into position. But you need to get into position. You're almost done.
There. Sure it's covered.
You're far away.
And grab the corner and pull it away. Okay, now we have a painted border. Now what I'll do is when that dries, we can trim off the edges, outside edge, and mount it on a card to make it into a greeting card. All right, I've chopped off the outside edges. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my couple final touches here. I'm going to use dark red, alizarin crimson. I'm going to put that into the center. This is yellow now with a little bit of red in the center. It'll make that a little more dynamic. And also a dark red on this flower, along with that opera. And put a dark center in this flower. And even a little touch down here. This little flower here. Okay. So I think there's a little dark touch there makes a big difference as far as those yellow flowers are concerned. You can see the difference how they pop out there. Okay, so that's the completed painting, and I'm going to get ready to mount it on the card. Well, that was the card demonstration, and let me explain to you that I usually don't work on that small of a format. 5 inches long and 5¼ inches long and about 4 inches wide. So a very small paint, almost like a miniature painting. So I was taking my time on that, and actually, as you're painting along, there's also a thought process that goes. So you have to be careful what you're doing, and I was really thinking a lot on the trail. as I was painting in the background, the mountains and so forth. I was trying to leave some little white paper to show and so forth. The tip for today that I have is that if you use masking fluid, make sure you use a separate bucket of water. Keep the masking fluid separate from your paintbrushes, because if the masking fluid gets into a paintbrush, it'll ruin it. So it won't have a good day. Now you'll notice by using the dipstick, I don't worry about using brushes. The dipstick is the only thing I use to put the masking fluid on. So years ago, I used to use an old brush and so forth, but I no longer use that. The dipstick does the job. Okay, what I want to do now is I want to take you over to my paint table, and I want to show you some of the varieties I did of that particular painting. I did the painting several times and did different kinds of paper, and also just different sort of technique. But let me take you over to my painting table, and I'll show you some ideas of what I came up with. And then we'll show you the final cards. Let me bring my... Yeah, I noticed here Alice is watching the video. Thank you for nice seeing you. Thank you very much for signing in. Okay, this is right now is just 4 samples here that I have of the particular card, and I've actually added a sentiment to the card also. This one here is very similar to the one I showed in the demonstration, and using a dark background, because I knew I was going to use lighter colors. For example, this love here going on top of the dark color, it shows up much better. So when your planning step, you got to decide, well, what kind of sentiment are you going to put with the card to show it off and so forth. So that's another variable in the card making process. Is not just doing the art, but also what you're going to do with the art when you're finished with it. Here's another example down here. Now this one, the difference between these two is this one I painted a border around, and we mounted it on a cardstock on this one. On this one I mounted it, this had a darker border around it, painted a darker border in black. I didn't use black paint, I used a very a mixture of blue and brown and a little bit of purple to give me that black color. But it was also this one here. Now, the difference on this one is that I didn't mask out the flowers. I painted the flowers first, and then I went back and painted in between. And you'll notice, I'll bring it up closer. You'll notice I left a lot of white paper showing. That's because I was trying to be very careful when I painted around the flowers. So when I did mask it out, I had to be very careful. I left a lot of little white paper to show, which shows a little bit of sparkle, which is okay. Oh, but that's the difference between that and the one that was masked. This one here was masked. You can see the colors are cleaner, and with a masking fluid, it gives you a different presentation. There's a picture of I took the sentiment off. So I didn't want to glue these down on because I wanted to show you another example here. Now this one here was a different color background. I used just a simple gray. I used just a simple gray on this to show the mountains with some light and dark. But I also used the masking fluid on this one. Okay. Same technique, but a different color combination in the background. Now that color there was I used the black color. On this one, I just put a light tone and a darker tone. Okay. Now this one here is my favorite one. This is and Gloria's favorite also. Now this one was painted a little bit lighter, and a couple of things I want to show here is the fact that from aerial perspective, the background mountains are always a light blue, and as you come forward, they become a little more purple. I'll bring it up closer in a minute. A little bit lighter blue in the background, and as you come forward, they become a little more purple, a little warmer. Okay, so this I masked this one out also when I painted it, but this was and what I did here, we trimmed off the border, and this was mounted on 3 layers. It was a background card layer, then a background layer, and then the card itself. So I'll bring that up close for you to get a nice close look up. So this one here would probably be with a lighter touch of color. But look at the sentiment. See, I used the proper sentiment there that, again, doesn't take away from the mountain itself. Now, a couple other things I did was these were more practice ones. These were ones I did. I mounted this one on just blue cardstock, but these were just for practice, getting the color scheme down and so forth. These are a couple other examples. This one here, I did a different color of the border edge. Now, what also, besides a card, you can also, let's take this one here. You can also mount it and make a painting out of it. If you paint it, and you can also put a frame around it. Let me put the dark background behind it. Moving stuff around here. Put the card down on the dark background and put a frame around it so you can mount it on a frame. And even with another frame around that. So you could turn that into a piece of art, even though it's a card format. Once it's been painted, you don't have to put the sentiment on it. You can use it and frame it. And this could also be a gift. You could give someone a gift as a painted piece of art. So that's another example of how this card making can turn into a piece of art. And so I really was had a lot of fun doing this. And it all started out with Gina K's stamp set, Spring Mountain. And I got a glare from the light here. And just as a comment here that all the tips that I gave today on doing the painting can be applied to any watercolor painting, not just for the card making. I try to make this into a work of art. So let me go back to the main camera. Let me get back to my main camera. Okay, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed that also. The presentation I gave today has all been videotaped. What it is, I will take it after it's finished on YouTube. I take the video and I post it on my website, everettswatercolors.com. And on my website, you go to everettswatercolors.com, and in the upper left-hand corner, there's a navigation chart, and you look for Live Classroom, and that's where the videos are stored. Live Classroom. So in the Live Classroom, I have all my videos on there that I've done live, and you'll find this one in there on my website. Those of you watching on YouTube, I'd like to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I'm going to be doing another video on, I mentioned before, on delightful pansies.
Daisy.
I'll be doing delightful daisies, delightful daisies painting, and of course next week I'll be back to doing I'll be doing a normal painting. So I'll do painting exercises, and I'll probably do another video on the card making because I have a lot of fun with it. So subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can stay abreast. You'll be notified of the next video coming up if you're a subscriber.
And next week?
I'm not sure I'll do it next week. It may. So I haven't thought about what I'm going to be doing next week yet. So let me think about it. Also, give me a like and give me some comments about today's program and what else you'd like to see me do. I'll be back next Thursday at 2 o'clock on the same channel. And if you've subscribed or give me a like on Facebook, you'll be notified of the next broadcast. I want to thank you for watching, and so I'm going to say goodbye for today.